This is where tropical Caribbean beaches meet glacial mountain summits. This is the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, a mountain range in northern Colombia. It's an area with such biodiverse ecosystems that National Geographic listed it as one of the most irreplaceable locations on Earth. In order to protect such biodiverse regions and resolve socio-environmental issues, sustainable development is critical. Hello, welcome to my presentation. My name is Kristen Viera, and I'm grateful to be discussing my undergraduate research. This is a quick glance at what all I will be going over. Colombia is the second most biodiverse country in the world. The map provides a quick breakdown of the unique landscapes that create a variety of ecosystems essential to sustaining the life of both the human populations and vast number of plant and animal species. Additionally, Colombia's irreplaceable fertile lands, lush forests, and coral reefs are natural carbon sinks, making them especially vital in reducing global carbon emissions. Unfortunately, anthropogenic habitat loss resulted in 33% of the plant species and 50% of the animal species being listed as critically threatened by World Wildlife Fund in 2018. Climate change is expected to exacerbate current environmental challenges that negatively impact both non-human and human populations. In a climate change risk and adaptability assessment, approximately 73% of the country's municipalities were labeled between medium and very high, making it increasingly important for initiatives to address socio-environmental issues that link natural resources with social injustices and economic challenges. Colombia's 2016 peace agreement was the final signed agreement between the Colombian government and the rebel communist paramilitary, known in English as the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, or FARC. It initiated peace building with the end of over 50 years of violent and terror tactics, drug trafficking, and abductions that took nearly 250,000 lives. To properly address plans for victim reparations, rural development, and solutions to illegal crop growing, the peace agreement included natural resource management. The resources, reparations, and opportunities provided to victims, farmers, and ex-FARC members not only work to build social and economic peace, but also contribute to environmental peace through this and through the protection and sustainable management of the country's biodiverse lands and natural resources. The environment was not only a cause of, but also greatly impacted by the decades of conflict due to exploitation and poor distribution of natural resources, which is worsened by poverty and inaccessibility to education and employment opportunities, of which continue to have the greatest impact on rural, indigenous, and Afro-Colombian communities. As a result of displaced communities and illegal activities, environmental damages estimated at about 2 billion US dollars every year included deforestation and oil spills. Since the official ceasefire in June of 2017, ex-FARC members have faced unfulfilled promises of protection, reintegration, and work. Program implementation was reported to take an additional 10 years on top of the original 15, particularly in rural areas. And even after Colombia joined the South American Escazú Agreement in 2019, which was to protect environmental and human rights activists and leaders, assassinations and threats continue, especially of environmentalists and those who speak up against mega construction and extraction projects. Until both social and environmental conflicts are resolved, they will continuously incite one another. The peace agreement must simultaneously build environmental peace to build stable and lasting social peace. Following Johnson and colleagues' recent research in environmental peace building, they expanded the complex definition of societal peace as not just the absence of violence, but also to include capabilities. They stated, specifically, the ability to mitigate livelihood vulnerability, participate equitably in collaborative resource management processes, and restore or enhance environmental conditions by building cooperative relationships. In addressing socio-environmental issues, the peace agreement as a top-down governmental organization influences and is influenced by bottom-up nonprofit organizations. Furthermore, Noguera and Vargas advised that in order to forge a common understanding of what peace actually means in practice, the peace the peace work of both the peace agreement and the grassroots organizations should be aligned. So, central to today's discussion are the following concepts that I want to clearly define. One is environmental value systems, EVS for short. And according to Rutherford and Williams, those are worldviews that shape the way an individual or group of people perceive and evaluate environmental issues. This would be influenced by culture, religious, economic, and socio-political context. These views influence the environmental work taken on by initiatives, and whichever EVS is most prominent within the initiative and how well it is communicated plays a role in perpetuating or changing the environmental behaviors of others. Two environmental value systems we will be discussing are the deep ecology EVS and the anthropocentric EVS. A deep ecology EVS is an extended ecocentric view considered to be life-centered, as it emphasizes the intrinsic value of all life and ecosystems and the human and the non-human, and recognizing it as connected in a part of an organic whole. Alternatively, an anthropocentric EVS is a human-centered approach that sees humans as the most inherently valuable and dominant species, benefiting from rather than depending on the natural environment, and therefore humans should self-concerningly manage Earth's resources. Following that, a solely anthropocentric or genuinely non-anthropocentric proxies fails to properly address social and or environmental issues, then a proper anthropocentric view, which must include sustained livelihood through natural resource management, must therefore hold itself responsible for the well-being of the ecosystems. In other words, it must adopt ecocentrism in the same way that deep ecology adopts the concerns of the anthropocentric. Considering the call for initiatives to align their peace building, it may be that the peace building work by the peace agreement and environmental organizations is most efficient when their EVSs, which influence their environmental peace building work, are aligned. Despite the call for a shared understanding of peace building, the peace building contributions by environmental organizations, and the environmental influence by top-down initiatives such as the peace agreement, there was no substantial research on the effects of the agreement on environmental work. Therefore, the overall objective of this research was to examine the effects of the peace agreement on the growth and change in environmental value systems of grassroots environmental nonprofit organizations in Bogota and Medellin, the capital and largest cities of Colombia. Identifying environmental influences behind environmental work is important in understanding how environmental organizations contribute to the peace building process and vice versa. Specifically today, I will present the findings on the following two hypotheses. Since the signing of the peace agreement, there has been a growth in Bogota and Medellin's grassroots environmental organizations. And within that growth, the organization's EVSs, environmental value systems, align with that of the peace agreement. My methods included a comparative analysis of the convenience representative sample of the 24 organizations collected using accessible online search tools. The organization's date founded was first established in order to categorize them as either pre or post PA, peace agreement. The environmental value systems were then determined by evaluating the direct language used within mission statements. Additionally, category setting parameters were set beforehand. The EVS categories, anthropocentric deep ecology and ecocentric deep ecology, were developed as means to compare the EVS of the PA to those of the organizations. The peace agreement's EVS was first categorized as having an anthropocentric deep ecology EVS. By simultaneously having to resolve environmental issues to build lasting peace, the peace agreement is an example of an anthropocentric social initiative that adopted ecocentric ideals through the deep ecological view of the human and non-human holistic relationship. Organizations with this EVS were then considered to parallel the PA. Potential limitations include the sample size, which is only representative of the much larger amount, and a language and cultural limitation in that this research connected data that is in Spanish to concepts expressed in English. So paraphrased concepts could have been misconstrued and ethical reasonings misinterpreted. This first graph shows the number of organizations created over the dates each was founded, starting with 1965, which happens to be the year that has been named the start of the conflict. The green bars show the number of organizations founded post Peace Agreement, or over the past 4 years of the 56-year time span. The graph reveals that 9 of the 24 organizations are post PA. While this does not imply causation, it shows that on average, 2.25 environmental organizations have been founded each year since the Peace Agreement, while roughly 0.288 were founded each year prior. In comparing environmental value systems, this graph reveals that out of the post-peace agreement organizations, the ratio of organizations that had an environmental value system in a line with the PA to those that did not was 7-2. Nearly 80% of the post-peace agreement organizations fell into the category of paralleling the peace agreement. However, the graph also shows that 67% of the pre-peace agreement organizations also parallel the peace agreement's environmental value system, and that there was an overall decrease in the amount of organizations categorized as having an ecocentric deep ecology EVS. Given this, the data was inconclusive in supporting that the peace agreement influenced the growth in an anthropocentric deep ecology EVS. By including natural resource management in the programs, the peace agreement may have helped spark dialogue and awareness on socio-environmental issues, thus sparking the growth in local environmental initiatives. Furthermore, by working to end social conflict, the peace agreement may have made it more possible and socially acceptable for communities to organize on environmental matters. Given that the majority of the pre-peace agreement organizations had already been following this EVS, perhaps the organizations had more of an influence on the peace agreement's EVS and other top-down initiatives, to which top-down initiatives then reach a wider audience and make way for further growth of that EVS. It may also be that an ecocentric deep ecology EVS is not as able to thrive during a peace building transition period where solutions to societal unrest naturally take on more anthropocentric values. Environmental organizations, therefore, are more likely to recognize the connection their work has to human health and vice versa. Lastly, it is important to note that other factors that may have sparked the recent growth in these organizations are the previously recognized governmental environmental work of Bogota and Medellin, and the COVID-19 pandemic, which caused governmental and top-down initiatives to globally to recognize the link between the increase in zoological diseases due to anthropogenic interference and environmental degradation. In addition to broadening the sample size and reviewing the method of data collection, future research should explore the relationship between the peace agreement and other kinds of environmental work, such as by activists, for-profits, and governmental initiatives throughout the country, especially in rural and indigenous communities that are directly impacted by the peace agreement's initiatives and most vulnerable to social environmental issues. Additionally, further studies should explore environmental initiatives' effectiveness in fulfilling their missions and contributing to peace building. This would determine whether or not paralleling the environmental value standard of the peace agreement positively correlates to successful natural resource management, why that may be, and which program methods contribute most effectively to peace building. The research indicates that there has been a growth in the frequency of grassroots environmental nonprofit organizations founded since 2016, which may have been sparked by the peace agreement. Future research, however, is needed to further understand the peace agreement's influence on these organizations, as well as the influences of environmental value standards on environmental peace building contributions. Overall, environmental degradation in Colombia negatively affects the country's numerous unique and biodiverse ecosystem, which in turn affects the flourishing of the many culturally and ethnically diverse communities. Examining peacebuilding influences on socio-environmental beliefs and actions contributes to understanding how and why certain environmental initiatives develop and flourish. Continuation in these efforts is critical to aid future policymakers and organizations in developing environmental programs that most effectively contribute to building lasting peace for both people and the planet. My senior thesis will be published in May, and I invite anyone watching to reach out to me with any questions and or feedback on my presentation or the research in general. I would like to acknowledge my research advisor, Dr. Wade, as well as my mentors throughout who have helped me in continuing my studies of both Spanish language and culture and environmental sustainability. I leave you with my contact information and 2 inspiring quotes by notable Colombian environmentalists. Thank you for listening, and do not hesitate to reach out.